Am I the a-hole for kicking my son out of my house after he screamed at his mother and ignored my requests to not smoke in my home? I accidentally got my wife pregnant when we were 20 and 19. We eventually decided to keep the baby, and I was always by her side. We later got married. It was tough though, so my parents played a big part in raising our son, often spending more time with them than us in his early childhood. Due to their role, they have a strong attachment to him and see him as an angel who can do no wrong. Now my son still lives with us. Shitty economy. Me and my wife get it. The basement is his living space. As a teenager, he progressively became more and more secluded and never grew out of it in adulthood. He has been getting more hostile with us lately and spends most days in the basement, only coming up to use the bathroom. Lately, he has been smoking weed often. It's legal for recreational use in our state, but he's underage, being 20 years old. I told him I wouldn't govern his life. He is an adult after all, but didn't want him smoking in my house. Partially due to the smell and partially due to him being underage. He has ignored my simple request multiple times. A little over a week ago, I told him I was done with his disrespect and that he was an adult now, not a baby. He didn't like this very much and went back to his hobbit hole in the basement. Not even 30 minutes later, I smell weed again. My wife saw how angry I was and offered to talk to him instead. It was quiet for a while until I suddenly heard my son screaming like never before. I rushed downstairs, and my wife looked scared and was basically crying as he screamed at her. I took her upstairs and told her to wait. I closed the basement door, grabbed my son by his shirt collar, and told him if he ever spoke like that to his mother again, there would be consequences. I told him to get the fuck out of my house by morning or I'd call the police on him for trespassing because he was no longer allowed in my home. This was the first time I actually saw my son scared of me, and he was out by morning the next day. Over this past week, I've gotten constant calls and texts from my parents, and even my aunts and uncles calling me abusive and a horrible father. I hate to say it, but I had to block my parents because of how much spam I was getting from them. Apparently, from how they were talking, my son is living with them now, and they say they will treat him right like I never could. I have always been very lenient with my son, and I've always thought very progressively, but this was the last straw. I don't think I'm the asshole, but maybe I am and am just ignorant. So am I the a-hole?